What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS. Have you ever wondered, can you communicate directly with spirit guides, teachers, or non-physical consciousness, or even our higher selves? What would they tell us? My name is Kevin Moore, and since 2015, I started to practice a form of communication which is termed channeling. I have been interviewing experts on my talk show to find out, does life continue after we die? And can we communicate with those that have crossed over? With each expert I spoke to, they all had different ideas. Is there knowledge from the past which could be shared with the present moment? So I thought, why not just speak to the non-physical world directly through channelers around the world? And that's what I set out to do. They call us channelers. Will take the viewers on a journey into the phenomena known as channeling. And my main goal with this docuseries is to bring a new understanding and awareness to channeling by looking within ourselves and asking, is it truly possible that we can all use this innate ability? Daniel, just thank you very much for joining us. It's great to have you back on.
Thanks for having me.
So you last came on to my show, I'm going to say a year ago now. It doesn't even feel like a year ago.
It had to have been over a year.
It's been over a year.
In my first house then, and we moved into the second house over a year ago.
I think time slowed down for me because I'm looking at people, I'm like, not yourself, but to some people, I'm like, they just look a bit older. What's going on? Do you know what I mean? But yes, so a year. And when you came onto the channeling docu-series, we'll link that in the description just below as well. So if people want to watch that, then they can do. You've got lots going on right now. Where are you in the world right now?
Outside of Brisbane, in a suburb called Parkinson in Queensland.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Well, actually saying that, is it not their winter there, but it's still quite nice, or?
It's summer here.
It's summer now.
No, it's not summer yet. It's not summer yet.
Right, I was going to say. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been over there for the back part of the winter.
But it feels like summer.
Right, well, of course, yes. Yeah, well, I'm in Wisconsin. Anything would feel like summer with that kind of temperature. Yeah, absolutely. And you've been doing your work out there?
Yes, I have. I have a vacation coming up around Christmas and New Year's, but I've been working ever since we got here for this vacation.
Right.
If you can call it that.
Yeah.
This trip.
Right. With a bit of time off as well, I hope.
Well, I always have two days off a week. Yeah.
Oh, who's forcing you to do that, right? Because I'm a bit like you. I get your energy a bit because, you know, you do, well, when you were single, you were working a lot. I mean, you've got a family now and everything else, but yeah.
I'd work 7 days a week, no problem. But I wasn't putting in as many hours then as I am now because I have more mouths to feed.
Right. Yes, of course. Yes. Well, you got a family as well. Absolutely. And you've still been doing your channeling, which is wonderful. And you've been growing it as well. And I've been looking at your website. You've got loads of things going on there. We're going to talk about a few special offers that you're doing right now on there as well, because we're going to mention them. It's impressive that you, with the content you're putting out, again, all your YouTube channels will be in the description below. Let's just give people a bit of a backstory on what it is you do. So what do you channel?
Well, I've been channeling the ninth dimensional Arcturian Council for the past 6+ years on a somewhat daily basis because I've been, like, even once I got married, I still was putting out a daily message. It was 7 days a week. I used to stay up till the wee hours of the morning transcribing and putting it all out there. And then I realized I'm just not getting enough sleep. I need to start doing them in the morning. And then once I started doing that, I said, well, we're not going to delay my days off by me sitting in the office doing these. So I started doing them 5 days a week, but they're almost daily channels from the Arcturian Council, updates, energy updates, what's going on with solstices and equinoxes and the month at hand or the portals that are open at this time. And so it's all usually pretty topical, but then sometimes it's also pretty universal messages, type of messages that are applicable at all times.
Well, that you've sort of answered my question, because that's what I was going to sort of go to next. What is that common theme that's coming through right now, even with the clients that you're seeing as well? Because obviously you do client readings as well.
Well, it's all, yes. And I haven't just been channeling for 6 years. I've been channeling for 12. Before that, I channeled a bunch of other beings for the daily messages, but that's what's going on lately is I stuck with the Arcturians, whereas in the past I've switched it up periodically because I would just start channeling someone new, but I haven't really been reaching out to any others because the messages from the Arcturians seem to be so what's it called? Like sequential, you know, like when you're watching a television show now, how every episode leads into the next one, which is great, which is so much better than the old days when they were all like standalone. So that's why I stuck with them, is because there feels like a progression there. But what was the question you asked me?
Well, just that main theme. Yeah, no. Well, there's so much to talk about when it comes to your work. Yeah.
There's a lot of themes. They're very positive. There's none of that doom and gloom stuff. You know, rehashing of things that have been said a million times, but still need to be said because everybody forgets. You know, you create your own reality. There's not one future we're all headed for. And you don't have to wait for anything. You don't have to wait for an event, a solar flash, ships to land, the earth to split into two, anything like that. You don't have to wait for any of that. You can be your own pilot of the ship that you're on and determine where you want to go with your vibration, your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions. And when I work with clients, because you asked me that too, a lot of the emphasis to people is still on, look, you've got this emotion that's stuck right there. Here's how you dig it out and clear it and replace it with something that feels better. Because we all, no matter how awake we are, no matter how many times we feel it, we live our day-to-day lives and we forget, oh yeah, it's really not about changing the circumstance or the other person. It's about the work that I'm supposed to do in response to what has shown up in my life to let me know I still have this work to do.
Right. And I think that can be so multifaceted sometimes. And I think at certain times of our life, it's certain things that we're experiencing and doing, whatever that passion is. I use that word very loosely, but it's whatever's just driving you. And it does change. I mean, it changed throughout your life. It's going to change throughout my life. It's not a constant sometimes, is it? Maybe there's a constantness in there, but it can seem very different on the outside.
Oh, my life seems very different on the outside from where it was 30 years ago, or, when I was a kid growing up and all that stuff. It's like, it is insane the amount of stuff you can cram into a single life. I went from being Catholic to being atheist to being spiritual. So I've run the gamut of all the different possibilities. I probably was agnostic too. If I understood the difference between agnostic and atheist, I would probably have been both.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, again, people can watch that interview we did. We'll not get too much into it. Your website as well, Daniel, for the audience is?
Daniel, Daniel, Scranton, SCRANTON.com.
Do you feel that people are living in a bit more fear right now, in a sense?
Well, it depends. I mean, it depends.
When they come to you before you've given the healing. Yeah, well, maybe clients are coming to you before they've sort of had that session.
I feel like a lot more people are lost than in fear. Lost in terms of just what they want to do with their life, or where life has brought them to. Or there's a lot of feeling of being disconnected from family, from community, from any other person, really, because there's a lot of people who live in places like where you are right now.
Right, my situation. Yes.
They're like, why am I here? Why am I surrounded by people that have no idea what I'm talking about and wouldn't believe me if I did start talking to them and tried to communicate to them what I believe in, because we are definitely in the minority here. And the New Age is seen as this fringe, weird place. It's often depicted in that way, even though the principles are everywhere, and in every facet of life. But, now hippie has become a bad word. Whereas, I think we used to revere those who were hippies a little bit more, because we thought, oh, look at, they're into nature and spirituality, and they care about other people. And now it's like, oh, hippies, like they're dirty and they're this and they're that, and it's like, I'm not a hippie in the sense that I have a home and I don't live in a tent or a van, and I'm part of, the economic system, and, have a home, I pay a mortgage and stuff like that. But the same ideals that they live by are what I live by too. So the way that, my favorite shows that of all time, like The Simpsons and Seinfeld, they really will make fun of New Age stuff and hippie. I still love the shows, but we are on this real fringe of society where people tend to look down upon those who hold a belief that ultimately everything is God, which is the hopefully amongst all of us, the unifying belief. We know there are a lot of different beliefs within the New Age community, but hopefully everybody who's awake or describes themselves as awake has that understanding that nothing exists outside of God. It couldn't possibly, or source, as we typically say, or all that is.
Absolutely. When you're just saying stuff like that, what comes to my mind is like, I watch a lot of different YouTube stuff while I'm editing, and even like younger creators as well with their talk shows, their podcasts, and they're interviewing like OnlyFans and this and that, and there's a line that's blurred that even 20 years ago, 20 years ago, that you couldn't do that. You couldn't have, Lana Rhoades, the porn star, on your show and then have Arnold Schwarzenegger a couple of weeks later. Do you know what I mean? Or then a spiritual guru. I mean, there is a lot of things changing. I see it. Do you know what I mean? Just the way we treat certain subjects.
Well, one of the things that always fascinates me too is that, like, in mainstream conversation or news or whatever, I mean, I think most people who are watching this right now don't watch mainstream news, but you'll see somebody use the word channel or channels. I remember seeing a clip. This is, I think, when I was living in Ojai, California, and they said, and it was a YouTube clip, and it said, it was like Entertainment News or Entertainment Tonight or one of those programs said, and Matthew McConaughey channels his character from Dazed and Confused.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so you do understand.
I hear that all the time.
You know what this is that we do and we're talking about. But then if you tell somebody you're a channeler, they're like, what's that?
Yeah. I get that. No, you do hear that a lot. I hear it on the TV all the time. You look how he's channeled that persona, or
there
is change. Definitely is. I just want to go forward, and we're going to go back a little bit here, right? You mentioned obviously this state of people coming to see you sometimes. They feel that they've lost their way, or they're stuck, or they their life's changed so radically they don't know which way is forward. It all comes down to, as well, I believe, especially with what I've been going through, is, well, this is my thing. This is what I think right now. I'm going to quote this: that the universe doesn't give you what you want; it gives you what you are.
Ooh.
So if you are an actor, right? If you are a channeler, if you are wealthy, if you come from, even though you may not be, right? But I'm saying embracing the you are, maybe that's the missing part in the law of attraction.
Well, we are everything, but we don't accept all aspects of ourselves too. So also, if you are something that you still don't accept about yourself, then when it keeps coming in your face and you keep resisting it, then you have to keep experiencing it so that you eventually get it, that, oh, I'm supposed to drop my resistance to this. I'm supposed to accept it and embrace it and ultimately unconditionally love it, which doesn't mean you necessarily love the words or actions of that person or that group, but you say, I am love in the face of this because that's what I've decided I really am. That's what I've come to know I really am. So it doesn't make any sense to be anything other than that, because nothing else is going to feel as good or satisfying. Nothing else is going to help that person become who they are too. Because if there's a person out there screaming hateful words and going to a white supremacy rally, that you can condemn them and say how awful they are all day, every day, but that's not going to change them.
No, that's true.
They're not going to wake up and say, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I am despicable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but you are, that idea that it gives you what you are. So if I said to myself, for example, I am a successful businessman, or whatever it is you want to be, right? I don't know. There's a power in that, in embracing it, and it sort of pulls it to you. I feel. I've been using it just recently. I'm like, there's something in this. There's something in this.
I think we all get to experience ourselves as everything. So everyone's had a past life or will have a life or simultaneously is having a life, however you want to look at it, as the king, the emperor, but also the beggar, the institutionalized person, the homeless person. Because without all possibilities existing and all experiences, you will never know yourself fully and truly as you are, as all that is, as everything in creation, which is what you are and I am. So you are the successful businessman just as much as you are the unsuccessful person who winds up living in their car and being homeless. And once you acknowledge that and accept that, then you're in this point. Some people call it the 0 point, although I may be misusing that in terms of like what's other people mean by it. But there's this point at which when you accept everything, then you get to choose because you don't get to choose if you're still in resistance to this over here. This is going to stick to you like glue because you're still in resistance to it. But as soon as you accept everything and you realize you're one with everything, then you're in this wonderful place where you go, well, now I'm going to choose to be this. And it will be easier because you won't have your claws digging into anything that keeps you from moving in that direction.
Yeah, and sometimes that change, because I'm going through this change, that you're resisting, that you didn't even know it was there completely, but you knew you wanted something different, right? And the answer was looking at you directly in the face sometimes. It's right under your nose, isn't it? Most times the answer. And I just couldn't see it until just recently. And I was like, damn. Yeah, and it was something I was going to do a long time ago. But there is many parts to me that I would say that I'd like to, there's other things I want to do, but there is a core foundation of what brings money in, right? And happiness as well, something you'd be happy doing. That's also important as well. And you can have that.
If somebody doesn't know what to do, which I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, then don't focus on what to do, but rather ask yourself, how do I want to feel?
Yeah, that's so important. And I tell you what, I could do this one thing. I'm not going to talk about it too much right now, but I could do this one thing, not make any money off it, just be happy doing it. Just be happy doing it. And I keep thinking about it. Yeah.
You might not make any money off of it right away. And you also have to be okay with that. I mean, if you start channeling tomorrow, there's not going to necessarily be a line of people out the door waiting to have a session with you. And that was true for me too. In 2010, I said to people, I'll do it for free because I want to do it. And because I know I need to get better at it. And the only way I'll get better at it is to practice it. But it was not something that I immediately turned into the way I support myself for like another 3 years after that.
Absolutely. And your sort of progression started from, well, we cut the story down in a sense. It's sort of, if there was a sort of mentor, there was books that were sort of mentors to you. Do you know what I mean? But, the Seth books, I remember you saying about the Neil Donald Walsh books, maybe you read those in the end. But there was Abraham Hicks, I remember from our original interview that we did. That really was a guiding force for you. And that was your sort of mentor. And not everyone in the channeling community that has come into becoming a channeler had any sort of help in the beginning. And the one thing I get a lot on this show through emails is that people, Kevin, can you recommend someone that can help me channel? How do I channel? I get that a lot, right? Believe it or not, right? Who would have thought, right? And this is something that you're teaching right now, and that's why I've got you back on, because I know that you would do a really good job at it. I mean, you approached me, and it was just when you told me it, to be honest with you, if you want the truth, I was like, yes, just a yes, because that's something I need to sort of, I'd like to promote that. Do you know what I mean? Because it's the one thing that people ask for a lot. And I think for me, even just to be able to channel your higher self, even if that's just listening to that deeper, still inner voice, that's a great place to start.
Yes, and I do a whole class on channeling your higher self in the Learn to Channel mega course that I'm also here to promote in addition to talking to you. That I've taught this course now. I'm in my 5th one, and I'm about to start my 6th one on December 3rd. And so I've had enough practice teaching it too, to know that the whole thing, like, I didn't prepare a word of it. 18 hours of teaching, and I don't prepare a single word. I don't write anything down because I've done it for so long. I've done it since 2013, and I've had private one-on-ones with people too. And I love talking about this stuff. And I feel like I'm an encyclopedia of, new age channeling information, so that each class I just like for higher self, I just say, oh, we're doing high. Sometimes I don't know what one we're doing. I have to ask the class members because I have so many going on simultaneously. I'm like, did we do this one last week? Okay. And then we just hit the ground running and talk about what is a higher self? How do you access your higher self? What is what's the whole process of getting there? And then the second hour of every class, so there's 2 hours, the second hour is always to lead them through exercises to get them to channel whoever or whatever. Okay.
So anyone can channel, in a sense. Have you sort of found that in the work that you've done in regards, teaching the classes?
I've seen so many people channel in my one-on-ones and in my classes for the first time. But also, here's another way of looking at it. And I know Daryl Anka talks about this, and maybe Bashar talks about it too. Everyone's channeling all the time because we are just like these meat sacks with like tuning forks shoved into them, that like there's everything out there that you can start vibrating in harmony with. And as soon as you're vibrating in harmony with it, you're channeling it. It's whether it's what your mom said or your teacher said or society says or the book you read or the video you watched, or something is getting you to harmonize with it. And all you're doing when you're channeling like ascended masters, archangels, whoever, is you're setting your dial to a higher frequency so that what you're getting is different and better than the discourse that's usually going on between humans. That's it. So everyone can do it. Everyone is doing it. Everyone can do it with that intention too, if they're willing to put in the time and the practice, which not everyone is. But because like my story, I don't know that I'd be channeling right now if I didn't meditate every day for 10 years before it all started happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's made you a much clearer channel, from what I remember us talking about before as well. That's something that you do. I guess it's like your workout, isn't it? In one respect, it keeps you sort of sane, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To do the meditation. Yeah. So what about, for some people watching this, and they may have heard from others, you've got to be careful with channeling because, any sort of spirit or any sort of energy that's passed on, one, it doesn't make them any wiser just because they've passed on. They may not even have gone to where they needed to go to, right? And they weren't famous on this side of the veil, but by coming through someone else, they can have a bit of a pantomime and to get a bit of showbiz going, and they're working through someone else, and they're enjoying that. They're enjoying it as much as the person that's getting the attention bringing it through. What would you say to that?
Well, I don't teach people how to channel beings at that level. If you get a Ouija board or a pendulum and you do no work on yourself, then you might connect with a being at that level. But the way that I teach people to channel is to get them to raise their vibration. And when you raise your vibration, being in a higher vibration, that is your protection. That's a natural shield, because energy that's up here can reach down. But energy that's down here can't reach up without raising its vibration. So if it's down here, it has no access to you when you're up here. It just doesn't. But if you stay down here where it is, and then you say, I'm open to everybody, then maybe that will happen. But I would say there's no safer state of being to be in than the channeling state, because you won't reach a channeling state unless you raise your vibration through all the different exercises, techniques that I have for you or that you get from somewhere else.
Right. And do you think those that mess with energy that's of a lower state know what they're doing? Really, they know what they're doing at a deeper level, because they're manipulating the energy as much as the energy is manipulating them, and it gets to manipulate people. I'm not saying this happens too often, but let's just be real, right? I know. Do you know? Actually, I know it happens. And you should ask me, well, why do you know that, Kev?
Why do you know that, Kev?
I knew he was going to ask that. My previous relationship is all based on that, where this particular person got involved with a channeler that completely misused his power, and they ended up with a baby, as you do. And I got to witness that guy, I'll say guy, in action, doing his work, and it was just like a spell had been put over people. This was back in the day when I first was recording the docu-series, and the things that he said to me off camera just sent alarm bells, racing. And I was contacted by my now ex-wife, to tell me not to put this particular person on the docu-series.
Whoa.
And yeah, I know the story of what really took place. So I've seen it firsthand, real bad manipulation. Do you know what I mean? But it takes two energies to come together in that state as well. So she would say she was manipulated, but I think yes, in some respects, but there's other manipulation going on the other side as well.
And nobody should give their power away to any channeler or any channeled being to the extent where they're then sleeping with the channeler.
sleeping with the channeler while the wife's upstairs.
Yeah,
and it's manipulation to the woman. It's just manipulation all over the place. Yet here's the thing: when he would give readings, it was accurate. This energy that was coming through wasn't cold reading. This bloody thing was accurate. Whatever was working with him.
Yeah, I've heard of that too. Where so a story that I have about this is someone I know, a good friend. She was dating a guy, and the guy was just using a pendulum and a dictionary. And that's all he used to get the messages. So again, there's no raising of a vibration there. So that's when a lower entity that can give you good information and gave them both good information can also take advantage and wind up doing harmful things. And the guy who was using the pendulum wound up, and I'm not trying to put people off using pendulums completely, because they do have their place. But I know when I used a pendulum way back when in like 2003, I got too into it, and I was using it to make every single decision, and it was just ridiculous. But yeah, the being was obviously real, because the being could hurt the guy, like make the guy feel pain and stuff. So yeah, it does happen when a person's not raising their vibration.
I remember this being, this person contacted me and immediately would go into channel. Do you know what I mean? We just got to do that. There's no like, can I channel for you? It's like, oh, for God's sake, go on. But what it told me, it was correct. I'll give it that. What it predicted. Even though, it was very, I can only say I've seen it, I've witnessed it, been married to it. That's one for the books. I'm not really telling the story here too much, but I'm sort of, glassing over certain things. But all I do know is it takes I know this from experience. As much as the person's being deceived, there is another energy from the other person as well. It takes two. I just, there absolutely is. But that was very rare. I mean, I happen to marry it, but it's rare, right? Hey, look, we're all on a journey, right? It's part of my karmic. I wish her all the best. I married her way after that had happened, I was going to do something about it. I was, but when we got married, we just wanted to leave it in the past, if that makes sense, or her past. So
that's the other thing too about everything is like, whether it's a negatively oriented entity or person, we all create our reality. No one's being preyed upon just out of chance, or, no one's a victim, because like Seth says, you have a choice. You're either a creator or you're a victim. There's no...
Well, that would lead then, wouldn't it, to the suggestion that maybe it was the person that was more of the manipulator of the energy than the energy that was coming through.
It was a dance and a co-creation, like all channeling is too. Like all channeling is a collaboration, and it's never just them. And that's something else that people need to realize about channeling, is that, as much as you get out of the way, and you get out of the way as best you can, you're still the one speaking the words. And the words coming through the channeler are sometimes chosen by the channeler. Sometimes there's editing that goes on. There's leaving things out if it makes the channeler uncomfortable. There's a lot going on. It's not, you're not just speaking to the burning bush directly, and people, need to understand that and make peace with it too, because, I think a lot of times people come to a channeler thinking, well, now I'll get all the answers. I'll get the name of my soulmate and where I should live and what I should do for a living and whether to invest in crypto now or wait 6 months. Like, we're ultimately meant to teach people how to fish, and if you listen to Bashar, or, and listen to Abraham and read Abraham, they're never predicting the future. They're never just telling a person what to do. They're always reiterating their own teachings and helping people apply those teachings, which is all we can really do for each other. Even a healer, you go to a healer, you think, well, the healer healed me. Well, did they, or did you open up enough? Because that healer's energy is so pristine and beautiful, and they relaxed you, and they helped you to heal yourself, because we ultimately always are creating our reality. And sometimes there's a co-creation, and that's wonderful. And I go to healers. I mean, you need help. We all need help, right? And I think one of the reasons to channel is to get help, and also to not feel so alone.
So true. Yeah. And I just want to just add something here as well, that the vast majority of channelers, most of them that I've come across, and I've come across a lot, I never had anything but good energy exchanges with them, and they wanted to help people.
I would say they mostly mean well. Yeah. I don't ever look at somebody and go, oh, that person's faking it, or that person's manipulating. But I understand channeling better than a lot of people do. So I know that even though those two things can be the case, there can also be wild distortions because of what that channeler is putting themselves in front of when they're not channeling, like what they're absorbing.
Yes, I see that as well. You've got to have done some work on yourself as well, which is what you do when you work with the classes. And then, okay, well, so how long does it take the average person then to start channeling, roughly? I mean,
it's hard to say, because there really is no average person. But some people, like I said, they'll have one session with me where I'm teaching them channeling, or they'll attend one class and then they'll email me and say, oh my God, I started channeling. But for other people, it takes years. And you've got to be patient with this process, because if you try to rush it, you'll push it away.
That is true as well. Yes. Yeah. And sometimes when you think you're sort of bringing through sort of mundane stuff that you've heard before, you know what? You never listened in the first place. Do you know what I mean? So, and there's so much we don't, we think we've absorbed it, don't we? But actually we haven't lived it. And the process is still there.
Yeah. When you find out for the first time that you are God, whereas you grew up thinking God's way up there in the sky and big and powerful, and I'm this little human who's supposed to please God. And then you go from that to knowing you are God. That doesn't mean you instantly start acting, thinking, and speaking as though you are. You know, it takes time to integrate that new knowing into everyday life.
Okay. Well, then let's just break some of the classes down then. So how long does the course last for, and what are the sort of areas that you cover as well?
It'll be December 3rd will be the first one. The last one will be sometime in August. So we'll meet once a month, and it'll be on Zoom. So people can choose to have their camera on, have their camera off when they attend. You can type in questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand and I can call on you and you can ask your question. And everybody in the group benefits whenever someone asks a question, because usually it's some question that other people wanted the answer to as well. And, you know, I kind of like randomly chose 9 as the number of classes that we would do. I think at first it was 8 and then I added one, but they're each 2 hours. Like I said, first hour is like a lot of lecturing and asking questions and getting answers to me. And then the second hour, I lead people through exercises to get them to channel. So the sequence goes, the first one's like channeling 101, like just a beginner's type of channeling class. The second one is on toning and the power of tone and sound to get the channeling started and unblock the throat chakra. Then light languages is the third one. Then higher self, then spirit guides, then ascended masters, archangels, fairies, and all beings in the fairy realm, and then ETs. Exclamation point. So ETs are the last ones we do. And of course, so archangels and ascended masters are non-physicals. Sometimes ETs are a part of a non-physical collective. So there's physical and non-physical beings in, you know, in the different segments of the course.
Interesting. Okay, so you cover a whole range there as well. Now, for those that are watching this and think, well, I just don't know if I can make those dates, you know, I've got commitments, what would you say to them?
Or they're sleeping. Yeah. The video recording gets sent out by email that night, the night after the class. And then there's also a link for audio only. So if you only want to download the audio and listen on your phone or something, you can do that. You don't have to sit and watch the whole thing. And it takes up less space when you do it that way. So that's helpful for people. So that's why I do both. I'm also now getting a transcript from Zoom because I have a person who's hard of hearing that got me to turn on those settings. So you'll get the transcript too, if you want to read it. But yeah, it's meant to be, you know, people are meant to do the exercises that are given over and over and over again. So even if they attend live, they're still going to get that recording and be able to listen back or watch back and follow through with the exercises I give, because that's why they're separated by a month. That's why it's not 9 classes in 9 days or 9 weeks. It's because if you give yourself 30 days to practice what I've given you, and then you come back with new questions, you come back ready to go to the next level, because it is sort of structured in a way to go from easier to harder. You know, because it's easier everyone can make a tone. A tone is just a vowel sound that you hold. So anyone can just make the O sound and hold it. And so, but not everyone can channel an ET. So, you know, hopefully you build to that from, you know, opening up your throat chakra through toning and and eventually maybe even channeling some tones and then channeling some light language. And I have seen a lot of people who've been able to channel light language before they've been able to channel in English or some other spoken language.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. The light language, I'll be honest with you, I've had a load more light language channelers come on than I ever have, right? It was one after the other at one point, right? Which was very interesting. And for me, you know, I think light language it means something different for the individual, for each person. It's not sort of just one size fits all. And it's definitely more. It's definitely more on the culture right now, more than it ever has been. Maybe that's because the times we live in, I guess, right? So that's interesting that, you know, because you are a light language channeler as well. You've done it in the past. Maybe you still do. Do you still do it? I think you do.
I do. Yeah, all the time.
Yeah. So, but I don't know. You must have seen the change where it's, you know, it's definitely, you know, maybe 10 years ago or less, it was difficult, wasn't it, to maybe find them, but not now.
Yeah, I started channeling it 11 and a half years ago. Didn't know what it was called. Didn't have the name light language in my vocabulary. It wasn't until 6 months after I started channeling it that I found out that's what it's called.
Right.
And now it's everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible to, you know, just be a part of that, to promote it as well. So there is a discount code. I should just mention that. I know we're getting close to the end here right now because there's a big time difference between us as well. So the discount code is, Daniel, for this?
It is your name, Kevin. Kevin will be the discount code, so that I know, you know, which people are coming from seeing this interview, and Kevin knows. And then
so for the podcast listeners, then they just go to the website is
if you want the direct page to my site, it's danielscranton.com not Kevin /mega MEGA. So I call it my Learned Channel Mega Course. And you can also go to danielscranton.com, click under the events tab or the Learn to Channel tab, and it's under both of those as well.
Right. Well, we were going to link all that under the description. It's been coming up on the screen as well. It came up at the beginning of the show as well. I'll make sure I put it up there for people to get. And yeah, you know, this is long overdue to sort of get someone on that teaches it. I mean, I've had others that sort of, you know, it's something that they've maybe done in the past, but it's yeah, I think it's something that's really worth just investing in as well, because, well, like I said, my thing about the whole thing about channeling is that if you can just connect with that higher part of yourself, that inner voice, that is such an amazing place to start. And if that's all it is for you, just to be able to connect within, it's, you know, that inner voice for each of us holds all the answers. I honestly know it does, and it never lets us down. We may feel it's let us down sometimes because we've followed it in whatever circumstances, situation that you're in, but actually, you know what, it was always for the best when you look back. But that takes time to have that hindsight. Yep,
absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever let me down, but then I don't listen to it enough. So, do you know what I mean? I'll be the first to say that. Do you know that you've almost got someone punching you through the gut sometimes on the, you know, within? Don't do it. No, it's fine. Don't listen to that.
Sometimes for me, I just have to listen to my wife, and then I realize, like, she's right most of the time. You know, like, we should have a baby. I'm like, and then we did, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the
best thing ever. Yeah.
Yeah,
that is so funny.
So I don't even always have that intuition to know, like, I want a baby.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, she would, but also, you know, yes, the wife always knows best. That's what I'll say. Yeah, they do. You know, and you know, just get me out of trouble. But no, most times, you know, when you're in a relationship, there is that energy from the woman, isn't there? That is that intuitive parts a bit more open sometimes than us guys, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yes, that's beautiful that you share.
Yeah, it's also called going with the flow too. Whether you're following your synchronicities, signs, or because it's easier to just say yes, then the yes is a word I channel when I just go out and go for a walk. I just start channeling yes over and over again, or I'm showering. As soon as the water hits me, yes, yes, yes. It's just one of those things where I think, and I heard through the grapevine that a long time ago, Esther Hicks gave, what's his name? Jim Carrey, a private session. And that Jim Carrey, it was before he had done the movie Yes Man, which is a very spiritual movie that often gets overlooked in his canon of work. And that Abraham not only told him to do the movie, but they said, just keep saying yes. Just keep saying yes to everything. Just like the character does.
That is so true, actually. Yeah. Yes. See? Yeah. I think there's some power in that. Yeah, I don't look at any of what I've done and see it as mistakes. I honestly do not when I say it punched me in the gut. I think sometimes that gut instinct is to be listened to, but also, well, maybe it's just telling us sometimes that it's going to be a bit of a roller coaster. Well, but
and sometimes we don't know what we really want too. Like when you started that quote about we don't get what we want, that's where I thought you were going with it. But I really liked where it landed, where you get what you are. And I've noticed so many times, I really wanted this and I didn't get it. And then it turns out like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't get that. And instead, because I didn't get it, I went in this direction, and it was so much better than what I thought would be the ultimate experience, or the ultimate person to be in a relationship with or something,
And there's that age-old thing as well, not caring what people think, whatever you're going to do. If it's in your passion, it's not hurting anyone, you want to do it.
Yeah.
You just cannot. Life's too short.
Yeah.
So, and I'm reminding myself that every day.
There's always a reason why that desire comes up too. It's whatever the desire is or the passion that you're following.
There's a deeper reason.
It's not an accident that, like, I never wanted to be
you're
a
right
race
there.
car driver, but some people did, and then they went and did it, and
I tell you what, some of that stuff as well is so deep within your psyche, within your soul, and it probably does come from past lives. There's something that's so deep. Only if you could see your soul lineage, would you understand where that's coming from. That needs to be answered now, because you've not answered it before, and it's just keeps coming back, and it's back in this life. So, what's that telling me?
Right.
I'm going to get an OnlyFans site. That's what it's telling me. That's what it's saying. So, yeah, that's what it's saying. Get my own OnlyFans page. No, do you know, if I was going to do it, I'd build my own. Do you know that I'd do it myself? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I've not been thinking about it, obviously. So, but but I get it. Do you know what I mean? And I think we live in a time where you've got to be yourself. I see a lot of these big YouTubers, I say it on this show, who have one foot in the sex industry, the other foot in the big name, big name, big celebrity interviews, so what, right? I'm not making it to be a thing. I'm just saying, right, they do. No one cares. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
No one cares. No one cares from that group. And from that group, they don't care about that. But there is a good bit of cross-pollination sometimes, I'm sure. But no one cares.
Well, I hope we get to that time when, nobody does actually, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Most people don't care, but we still live in a time when some people, and because we live in a time when some people care, then each of us has to look within ourselves and say, well, what does that say about me, that I'm still in a reality where people are shaming other people for what they're doing with their bodies? with other consenting adults. And
what will you just get to the point where you just don't care? Do you know what I mean? It's the best place to be. It really is. And
but then maybe it's like when we live in a world where some people still do care, then maybe we judge the people who care and who call it pornography and the work of the devil and all this stuff. And then you have to send love to the people who are picketing outside of the OnlyFans headquarters.
That's fine. That's fine. Just absolutely. The paycheck just looks past all that. Do you know what I mean? No, I don't care. So yeah, I know. I get what you mean, and maybe I'm going to be a rebel. I think I am, actually, to be honest with you. I think I am. I'm ready for change. Do you know that? And I hear it. Do you know that? I feel it. And things. Maybe I've been in a loop for far too long, and I've not been true to myself. I probably, we create these characters sometimes, don't we? That it's not really us. And who do we do it for? Well, we thought we were doing it. Well, actually, you just get stuck in a loop sometimes, I think.
Yes. And the really great spiritual teachers will tell you that the ultimate goal is to become nobody, because if you're nobody, then you're not attached to an ego, a public persona. If you're nobody, then you don't have a past that you're clinging to that defines you, or a tendency or a proclivity. You're just in the moment so completely that you don't identify as even an individual. And I think, speaking of Jim Carrey, once he started to realize that and wanted to go down that path and start doing it in public, people thought he lost his mind.
Well, he talks about in a lot of his films how he channels the character. There was one specific film where he channeled that comedian, and he couldn't let the character go. He was channeling it 24/7, and he was a pain in the ass, I think, for some of the crew to be around. You know what I mean? Because it really was this character. Eric Kaufman. Yes, Eric
Kaufman was always being that guy that was like a performance artist, and just playing with all kinds of social conventions and things.
I think it's so freeing to be yourself when we get to that, when we can sort of experience that. For sure. Okay, well, thank you, Daniel. Just one last time, your website is
danielscranton.com. The course starts December 3rd. It's called Learn to Channel Mega Course, and there's a coupon code to enter at checkout. Wait till you get to the checkout, and you'll see the little box that says, have a coupon code, and you stick it in there, KEVIN, and then click apply, and you'll see 20% taken off.
Excellent. Well, listen, thank you for coming on. Thank you for the work you do as well. We'll get you on in the not too distant future. We'll do some channeling, but today was just... we're both in different time zones, and I just wanted to talk about what you're doing right now as well. So I appreciate you coming on, and thank you very much.
Always, yes.